Today, we're going to be discussing Lesson 1-7, which is Exploring Algebra, What's the Rule? Today, we're going to talk about a term called a variable. A variable is quite simply a letter that stands for a number or a group of numbers. We are going to begin by looking at some tables. When we see A and B, we can think of the A as being the in box and the B as the out box. Okay, so when we look at 3, if we put in 3 and we get out 9, there are two possible ways that can happen. To go from 3 to 9, we can either add 6 or we could multiply by 3. Now, one of those works for the entire table. So let's try plugging them in and determining which of those it would be. So we already know, that it could be add 6 or multiply by 3. So when we go to the second pair of numbers and we see 4 and 12, if I put in 4 and I add 6, do I get 12? Of course not. I would get 10. So we already know that the rule has to be to multiply by 3. So if 3 times 3 is 9 and 4 times 3 is 12, then 5 times 3 would be 15. So if I put in 5 and get out 15 and I multiply by 3, that's what we would need to do. So to put this into words, my rules would be I would multiply by 3, or to write it using a variable. Let's say our variable is the letter n, because remember, a variable is a letter that stands for a group of numbers. So let's use n. So another way to write this would be to take a number times 3. In the second example, we see that it goes from 8 to 12. How can it go from 8 to 12? Well, to go from a small number to a large number, we can either add, once again, or we can multiply. In this particular one, to go from 8 to 12, we would have to add 4. What could we multiply by 8 to get 12? Nothing. So because I cannot multiply anything times 8 to get 12, I already know my rule for this particular table is to add 4. So let's complete it and make sure we are correct. 8 plus 4 is 12. 12 plus 4 was 16. So if I put in 13 and I add 4, I would get out 17. And if I put in 18 and I add 4, I would get out 22. So our rule for this particular table in words is add 4. To write it with a variable, it would be n plus 4. In the third example, if we put in 8 and we get out 4, there are two possible ways that can happen. I can either subtract to go from a large number to a small number, or I could divide. So let's see which of these will work. To go from 8 to 4 subtracting, I would have to subtract 4. To go from 8 to 4 dividing, I would have to divide by 2, because 8 divided by 2 would be 4. Now, if you look at the next pair, 12, I have a missing number, and 16, a missing number. I can't really do it, but let's say that down here that we have a 10 already. So that 10 was there. Let's just pretend that was there. So in order to go from 20 to 10, can I subtract 4? Is 20 minus 4 10? The answer is no. So I already know my rule for this particular table is going to be to divide by 2. So 8 divided by 2 was 4. 12 divided by 2, of course, would be 6. 16 divided by 2 would be 8. So our rule for this particular table in words is divide by 2. And using it as a variable, or writing it as a variable, it would be n divided by 2.